Hi, I'm Steve Goldman, the Executive Director of the National Young Composers Challenge.
Hi, my name is Jeff Rupert, and I'm the Director of Jazz Studies at the University of Central Florida. I'm a tenor sax player, and I'm the Director of UCF's record label, Flying Horse Records.
Hi, I'm Dan Crozier, Professor of Theory and Composition at Rollins College, pianist and composer.
Hi, my name is Keith Lay. I am the Director of Musical Industry Studies at Full Sail University and a composer.
Daniel, this is a really interesting piece you've given us here. I don't think we've ever gotten one quite like this. You're exploring some really interesting ideas. You know, the gut feeling I got listening to this was when I listened for the first time to Thus Sprach Zarathustra, which is you've heard it in the theme of 2001: A Space Odyssey, with this kind of brooding, rolling, impending thing happening in the beginning for a long, long time, like almost a little too long, and then this audacious brass choir comes in, very powerful pieces that, which resolves at the end, So it had that kind of feeling to me. By the way, one thing which is going to be a problem is you cannot write for piano in the Young Composers Challenge for the orchestra division, because we don't have a piano on stage there. If you send a piece in, and since you're 16, you have 2 more years you can send pieces in, remember that there's no piano for the orchestra division. Anyway, really interesting piece.
I really like Daniel's sense of melody. I thought he has got a flair for the dramatic, not only in his melody but his orchestration. Rhythmically, Daniel, you've got the melody displaced rather uniquely, starting in the third bar with the melody coming in on 1 and then playing 2, but then the end of 1 in the next bar and then 4. And because there's no time pulse from the beginning, that kind of leaves a lot of ambiguity, and that could be either good or bad. I'm not casting judgment in any way about that, but it did leave a very much of a kind of elusive sense of pulse. And
kind of fluid,
Yeah, so that could be good or bad, and you just need to be aware and make sure you're really sensitive about that. One of the things I noticed, you had a really nice dramatic build at the end of the second page, but I think the other brass could have really supported it a bit more. You've got, I'm talking about it's really hard to see. It's kind of small. I think it's a 5/4 bar. 4 bars out on the second to last page. I think the build was really dramatic, fortissimo in the strings, but I would add the tuba, or consider adding the tuba and the bass trombone and the trombone 1 and 2 there. You add them 2 bars later, and I think maybe you're trying to use that as a mechanism to continue the swell. But I would encourage you to maybe think about orchestrating them from the onset of that big change there.
Well, the tuba will make a big difference in that bottom.
Yeah.
So there's no other way to get it.
Yeah, I think it would help. But then there's some really neat, like the sensitivity of that trumpet melody you wrote on the third page. At the end of the third page was very interesting, and the way you phrased it I thought was very sensitive. Try and key in on that sensitivity and really include that throughout the rest of the piece. One thing, technically at the end, I don't think you're going to be able to hear the harp playing those fortissimo quarter notes with the rest of the orchestra blaring through.
Yeah, I was going to say at the very least you want to make those octaves. And with a harp is an interesting instrument because you can have the A sharp but also the B flat at the same time and get more sound out of it that way. Have them do all those notes, the A sharps and the B flats, and do it in octaves so that they have a little better fighting chance. But Jeff is right, it's going to be hard to hear that.
Harp's a weird instrument too because it's so easily buried, and then it can cut through like a knife too, but mainly in the high notes. In low notes, it just gets buried, unless it's a very quiet passage.
Mm-hmm. Daniel, I have to tell you, I was utterly moved. I think this piece is profound. I think, there are some things that might be some weaknesses you can shore up, but I find your piece brilliant. It's simple, incredibly brilliant primary kind of colors, and you don't make it do more. What I love about it is that you're a little bit more on that Eastern Europe school of stark, big statements. And I don't know that the tremolo all the way through is going to give you the power that you probably think it's going to. I don't know. I don't think so. I think the strings are going to be pretty tired by the middle. I don't know if they're going to really give you the power that you've got here. But I so love and appreciate your sense of these towering brass statements based on this single tonic key. And I agree with with Steve. You know, it reminds me of also Sprock, but it's in such a more wonderful kind of sense of harmony. I can't believe, you know, your lines just woven really beautifully. The end of page 2, the middle of page 3. There's something about your gestures that are profound, and I really get it. Now, whether this thing will really play as well as you hope it will, I really don't know. But you are thinking outside the box, and you're thinking artistically and at a mature level. So keep going. I'd like to hear more of your work.
Vision is great. What would you suggest that Daniel do to replace the piano in this?
I don't think it's going to be missed.
Just take it all together.
I mean, what you can do is more timpani. You can
Timpani
have the
can cover.
You have the low F sharp a lot, but you could add the octave higher and do a tremolo between those, and you'll get a lot more weight if you do that.
I also wonder if like having the timpani do that would shore up or free up the strings from having to play those tremolos throughout.
Well, you know, I know it may be tiring for him, but I think it's going to be kind of a cool. It gives you kind of this background windy sound of rustling. You know, maybe since if you're not going to use piano in the very beginning, and you already have timpani in there, that you could add a little more. Maybe the cellos.
Yeah, the cello can come in, and you can divide the basses in octaves. It sounds good when you do that. Octaves sound good. You know, you don't want to get tight rhythm intervals down low. Now, divisi, but
or double stops.
Divisi, not double stops.
Yeah,
probably that's hard, but divisi basses.
Because you couldn't do it. Well, you could do it.
You could, but it's tiring. I think that long. But you know, if you have now, not all the time, but when you want the weight, you can have like a lower division of the cellos doing it, along with the timpani and you know even bass trombone, which doesn't do it too much, but it could come in there. There are other ways to work with that pedal tone, but what a brilliant notion that pedal tone was. Just a technical point to add here: it wasn't always absolutely clear how many of each instrument were playing. You know, at the very opening, we weren't sure whether it was both horns of 1 and 2 or just one of them. 2 is better there. I think that's what you intended, but you want to use 1 period if it's the first, 2 period if it's the second by itself. If they're both playing A2 is the correct way to do it. You were semi-clear, but not always clear. So just those are technical points. But what a brilliant concept this is. Thank you so much.
One more quick thing. Good job in giving the tuba player room to breathe. A lot of times young composers forget to put those rests in for brass players to breathe. I don't think it needs to necessarily be a 16th note. I think you just make it an 8th note. I don't think it's going to sound any different. I just make it the and of 4. But hats off to you for giving them a chance to breathe.
One other thing, I'd go back and make your staffs twice as big so they're easier to read. You have a lot of space between them that you could eat up a little bit and just have a few less measures per page. It's fine. So thank you very much, Daniel. Great submission.